I played every new Mario Kart 8 booster track. Here's my impressions. So I recently made a video where I played every Mario Kart game. While I was making that video, Nintendo announced the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. This is a series of paid DLC that'll be adding 12 new cups over the course of about a year. That's 48 new tracks, which is bonkers given that this effectively doubles the number of tracks in the game. So keep in mind that I haven't played a whole ton of Mario Kart, but apparently a lot of these courses are pretty much just ported over. I don't know that for sure, but that's the general sentiment I've seen online. For me though, these are completely fresh tracks. That means that any comparisons that I show you will be directly from the original games. The one exception is Tour because again, I haven't played a ton of it, and it looks at least visually like these tracks are pretty similar. Also, it's just more interesting overall to show the evolution of these tracks from their original games. And for the record, this is different from the kind of content that I normally make, but I figured it'd be a fun idea. So if you're watching this, I really appreciate you a lot. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. It really helps me out and it means a lot to me. Anyways, let's get right into these tracks. So the first cup is the Golden Dash Cup. The first track in this cup is Paris Promenade from Mario Kart Tour, or Paris Promenade, depending on where you're from. This one is obviously Paris themed. The big set piece is a big ramp that sends you directly under the Eiffel Tower. This track's layout isn't too complicated, but there's a couple of alternate paths, but they still mostly just lead to the same place. Something I do really like though is that it looks like the track makes you go a totally different way during the last lap, and you even end up going in the opposite direction of some of the other racers on the same track at the end. This is super unique, and while I'm sure it might have happened in a previous game, I can't think of any other previous tracks that have done this right off the top of my head. I like this track. It's really easy on the eyes, has a really cool set piece, I really like the environments, and it does something unique. This is a pretty strong start for the courses. Let's move on to the next course. This is Toad Circuit from Mario Kart 7. There's a pretty significant visual upgrade here for starters. Otherwise, this is a pretty faithful remake of the track. All of the elements are there, including the giant inflatable toad, which to me is the set piece for this track. This track doesn't really have any kinds of like alternate paths or anything like that to my knowledge. While I do like this track overall, I do wish the first Mario Kart 7 track they went with had more of a showcase of what 7 introduced, like the underwater track segments, for example. There is a gliding segment, but it's just the one and it only lasts for a couple of seconds. Overall though, I do like this track, but I'm a little underwhelmed by it. This is Choco Mountain from Mario Kart 64. Now this one I was really excited for because it's the first one with just a massive visual upgrade that I can see. Right off the bat, you can see that unlike the Nintendo 64 version, you're not completely walled in right at the start. It just feels way more open with more sights to see. Also, these little ramps here at the end can now be stunt boosted, which gives you a nice speed boost right at the end of each lap. While I don't have a ton to say about this course, it is pretty similar to how it was on the Nintendo 64 layout-wise, but the visual upgrade does definitely breathe new life into it. I also think this track is a bit short, but it still feels longer than the Nintendo 64 version overall, so I can't really complain too much. While my mind isn't blown by the layout or anything, I do still like this course. It's a nice addition. This is Coconut Mall from Mario Kart Wii. Now this one is iconic design-wise. It's also very similar to the original Mario Kart Wii version, but this one feels a lot like Toad Circuit in that they added a couple of extras, like some new terrain obstacles and a flying section, but not really much more. It's also kind of underwhelming because the flying section doesn't really have any kind of special big set piece like the Paris map did, for example. I mean, there's the ocean, I guess, but it's not really that visually interesting to me. Coconut Mall is a really strong track either way, so I am happy to have it here. Do I wish they'd gotten more creative with it? Yeah, but again, the bass track is fine. There's also a brand new rendition of the Coconut Mall theme song, which is super faithful, but it's crisp now. So that increases the quality by, I don't know, 10%. Anyways, that was it for the Golden Dash Cup. Let's move on to the second cup, the Lucky Cat Cup. I'm gonna give my total impressions at the very end. The first track in this cup is Tokyo Blur from Mario Kart Tour. This one is, of course, inspired by Tokyo, Japan. I really like the aesthetic of this track, though. It feels a lot more unique from other Mario Kart tracks because it really does feel like you're driving through a big city with tall buildings surrounding you, but with the mixture of traditional Japanese architecture. Though, it did make me realize that the next Mario Kart game needs a new Dunk City. But I'm getting off track. This track is really visually appealing and is fairly similar to the Paris track in that the layout does change during the final lap. The first turn you make for the first 2 laps is a left turn, but during the last time around it's a right turn. I know this isn't groundbreaking or anything, but I do like the variety that's built into the track, if that makes sense. Also, like I said earlier, I just like the mixture of the modern buildings and the traditional Japanese architecture everywhere. The Japanese theme actually reminds me a lot of the Taiko track from Mario Kart Arcade GP DX. In fact, it almost makes me wish this track took place at night. The next track is Shroom Ridge from Mario Kart DS. This one is also pretty faithful to the track on the DS, which is nice to see, honestly, for a DS track. The scale, though, feels so much bigger, probably because we're playing it on modern hardware in a way newer game. I love the visual upgrades here. There's still tons of traffic to navigate, and while this doesn't do anything too new with Mario Kart 8's new features, it doesn't have to. Not every track has to. It's a solid track. Plus, I mean, there is technically a new feature in that you can ramp off of some of these cars. I mean, what more can you ask for? There's a surfboard on this car that you can just ramp up. Okay, well, you can ask for a little bit more, but that's the only place where you can do anything new. Overall, though, it is still a decent track, and if you like the DS version, you'll like this version too. This is Sky Garden from Mario Kart Super Circuit. This one is a huge overhaul, at least visually. Super Circuit Sky Garden was flat, like most Super Circuit maps, with a ton of twists and turns. The ground was cobblestone floating on clouds, but here there's a massive change in the art direction. It's still cobblestone on clouds, but there's now a ton of stuff to look at in the background, and ironically a huge sense of verticality. In the original, there were just these beanstalks in the background, and the track itself was flat. In this one, there's beanstalks in the background, huge mushroom platforms, airships, and more. The actual track layout itself has added some jumps, some extra turns, more verticality, and even a couple of little extras that let you bounce off the sides. Well, I do think it would have been a cool track to try out some of the anti-gravity stuff from Mario Kart 8. I'm not too upset about that because this track really does bring a lot to the table. The course layout isn't complicated or changed too much, but that being said, I still love it. This is how you do a modern version of a classic track while keeping its soul intact. The final new DLC course is Ninja Hideaway. Weirdly, the track select menu doesn't show this one as being from Mario Kart Tour, but it definitely is. I don't know if this is because it's not based on a specific real-world location, but it's a weird choice nonetheless. Anyways, to get right into the meat of this one, this is hands down my favorite course out of all of these DLC courses. For starters, it has that Japanese theme and it really leans into it. The whole thing is just over the top. Like, there's even a course obstacle that's just a bunch of giant shuriken piercing the ground in front of you. Oh, and it takes place at night, the exact thing I wanted from the Tokyo Blur stage. Not to take away from that stage or anything, I just really think there's something special here. As for the layout, this track pretty much has 2 layouts. There's an upper area and a lower area that covers almost the entire track, and you can either flip-flop from up to down or stay on top or on the bottom. The upper area is a mixture of roof tiles, updrafts, and other stuff like Shy Guy ninjas. The lower part has the giant shuriken I mentioned, more updrafts, and a bunch of really cool environments. Overall, I just really like the aesthetic and layout of this track. It also feels like the most challenging track out of the bunch that were released, and it has the most going on. Weirdly, it almost feels like the most effort went into this track. But I don't want to take that as fact since I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Anyways though, let's move on to my overall impressions. So, overall, I'm content. I'm not insanely impressed, but I'm also not underwhelmed. I think for a game that's pushing a decade, the fact that we're still getting any kind of DLC is impressive in its own right. I don't know if it's a bias since I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I think the best courses here are the Mario Kart Tour courses. Maybe it's biased since I don't have experience with them, but they just felt the most fresh. That being said, I really do wish at least one of these tracks took advantage of Mario Kart 8's unique features. There was no anti-gravity to be found anywhere, let alone stuff like the underwater segments. I mean, don't get me wrong, none of these tracks were bad by any stretch, I just wish we had more variety. Of course, this is only the first of many DLC packs, and there's a lot of potential here, and I'm optimistic that we'll see some really cool stuff come out in the future. Anyways, that's it for the tracks. I really hope you enjoyed going over all these with me. I enjoyed trying them, and I think it's super interesting to see how they've evolved. If you like this kind of thing, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Also, please let me know in the comments if you want to see me do this again when the next batch of tracks releases. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and as always, have a fantastic day.